Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 979, 979, December the 7th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, December 7th, I believe that's Pearl Harbor Day, is it not? Yes, indeed. Okay, let's cover the news of the day. There's quite a bit to get to, we'll see if we can get through it all. Okay, well, it looks like John F Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, has joined Quid Pro Quo Joe on the campaign trail. He's now in Iowa with him on his Iowa bus tour, the No Malarkey, the No Malarkey tour. Yeah. Oh, man. Yes, and that's right. And John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, is touting Biden as some sort of a messianic figure who can save the world. Oh, yes, that's coming directly from Gateway Pundit. Well done. I don't know who wrote that story, Gateway Pundit, but that's an absolutely fantastic way to describe that little speech that Kerry gave. I couldn't watch more than 2 minutes of it, is all I could take, of John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. And that's kind of what I thought as I was watching. I thought he's literally trying to make Joe Biden look like this historical political figure that the world's begging for. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? Well, he actually even said that Quid Pro Quo Joe is the man who has been sent to put the world back together. Like he's Jesus or something. Now, the real problem that John F. Kerry has, who, by the way, did serve in Vietnam, the real problem he has, and the reason he's on Quid Pro Quo Joe's bandwagon, is because, of course, his stepson, Chris Hines, was a partner in Rosemont Seneca, the $2.4 billion private equity fund, along with Hunter Biden. A lot of that money coming from China. China. That's right. So, Kerry, like a lot of these swamp monsters, realize that if Trump wins, and he's going to, they lose. And they lose big. Because they don't just lose political power, but a lot of what political power represents in the swamp is protecting the racket that they run and have been running for a very long time. And if the protective wall is torn down that has protected all the criminal activity in the swamp for decades and decades and decades, of which Biden and Kerry have both been a part of, they will be outed, you might say. So there is a great deal of liability for people like John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, along with Joe Biden and many, many others. Madam Botox, her son, is involved in some sort of Ukrainian energy stuff going on. Many, many people we know more. Almost every day we learn more about Democrats and their involvement in a lot of the corruption going on in Ukraine. And the Democrats weren't, in the Obama administration and the Right Reverend Clinton and all these people, Biden and Kerry and all the rest, these people weren't involved in Ukraine to try to get rid of corruption. They were feeding the corruption. They were profiting from the corruption. They were cultivating the corruption and harvesting the corruption that they were involved in Ukraine. Ukraine, that's why it's such a touchy subject. And anytime you get anywhere near Ukraine, that's when you see things like, oh, we got to impeach Trump. We got to go after the phone records. We got to go after this guy. It doesn't matter. You do anything like John Solomon or anyone else who raises issues about things that happened in Ukraine, you immediately fall under major attack because you are directly over the target. So you'll start taking heavy flack because the Democrats are very, very vulnerable in Ukraine when the truth is revealed. So now you have this new leader in Ukraine who's like Trump, an outsider, who's now come in, and he'll face the same type of abuse that Trump is facing if he attempts to clean up the corruption in Ukraine. You can expect that Zelensky is going to face a lot of the same type of blowback if he attempts to clean up the mess there. So he's going to have a very difficult time. But at least he knows that Trump has his back, and the leader of Poland has his back. And a lot of these countries in Eastern Europe who knew about the corruption going on in Ukraine, a lot of these countries who now have much better leadership, they will have Zelensky's back, as will Trump. So he definitely has some support to be able to clean things up there, but he can't do it alone. And especially since a lot of the corruption was coming from the United States, specifically within the Democratic Party. And so this is what John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, knows very well, along with Biden, along with Pelosi, the Rotten Reverend, Obama, and all the rest. They know what kind of liability that they have in Ukraine. And that's why they're going insane. And what other reason would John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, what other reason would he have for joining the quid pro quo Joe No Malarkey bus tour in Iowa? He knows Biden is a loser. But they have no choice. These are desperate, desperate people. Just watch them. Well, we have this jobs report that came out yesterday. 266,000 jobs in November. Many manufacturing jobs. I think that number was 54,000. Unemployment at 3.5%. And wages went up 3.1%. Not only are there more jobs and better jobs that Trump's creating, he's also creating jobs that are paying higher wages. And this is something we haven't seen in decades. Wages been falling against inflation. And here we can see that wages are now rising 2 to 3 times faster than inflation. And with this type of growth, and that's even with the deep state fighting Trump on every front. Can you imagine if he wasn't being thwarted at every turn, how good things could be? That's why we have to get rid of the demo commies. ASAP. Just think what Trump's second term is going to be absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Well, it looks like Charles Grassley, along with Ron Johnson and Lindsey Graham, are seeking the staff-led transcribed interviews of the DNC operative Alexandra Chalupa. The DNC operative Alexandra Chalupa had these meetings with Ukrainian officials during the 2016 election. And there apparently are transcribed interviews that were done by the staff. And they're now seeking those out. Yes, indeed, that is definitely a rock you want to turn over. The Dems, of course, are freaking out. They are freaking out. And they should. Because Alexandra Chalupa was involved in a lot of things, including the origins of the Trump-Russia hoax. She was really the driving force behind getting Manafort blackballed out of the Trump campaign and eventually into the problems he had falling into the target area of Uncle Bob the Executioner and the Hillary donor posse. Alexandra Chalupa, right at the heart of that. She was like an intermediary, if I can say it, an intermediary between the corrupt Ukrainians, the Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, Michael Isikoff, and the State Department. And we suspect possibly even Christopher Steele. That's not been proven, but it would be hard to imagine that their paths couldn't cross. Certainly a lot of the information she was acquiring was finding its way into his orbit. Now, maybe there was another person in between them, but certainly that's something that's going to be, I think, discovered and proven one way or another. Of course, John Durham, of course, is looking into the origins of the Trump-Russia hoax. And if you're looking into the origins, you are going to find yourself in Ukraine, and you are absolutely going to stumble onto Alexandra Chalupa. And one of the worst things that Chalupa has to worry about is that her sister has a podcast that has quite a few listeners. And her sister is very, very, very talkative. She talks a lot, and did talk a lot during 2016, 2017 about the things her sister was involved in. And I expect that Durham is going to be hearing some of that type of stuff. And I can absolutely guarantee you that Chalupa will be in front of a grand jury at some point. Will certainly be questioned by Durham, because she was at a very, very active player as an intermediary during the very late 2015, early 2016. She was a very key person that sort of was one of the, I would say, igniters of the Trump-Russia hoax, because that's where a lot of it began. So you can expect that she is going to face serious scrutiny, possibly even fall under criminal investigation, and may in fact be indicted. I don't know that what she did was necessarily illegal, unless, again, you're looking at a wider conspiracy. Individual things that she did, if she was being paid as a subcontractor, probably not illegal. But if you're knowingly part of a coup, that is something different. So we will have to see how things look. But if I were Alexandra Chalupa, I would be lawyering up. And I would be telling my sister to shut up and burn the tapes. And delete your channel. And hope to God it's not on some backup server somewhere. Well, we now have at least 4 demo commies now likely to vote against impeachment. That means you only need 14 more to fall off the bus. And I think it's very likely that could happen. That's why Madam Botox is pushing so hard to get this done as quickly as possible, because every day she loses a little more steam. So we have Jeff Van Drew, Colin Peterson, Dan Kildee, and now Kendra Horn, all looking at the re-election situation in their districts and realizing that if they vote for impeachment, they will lose. And in fact, a couple of these people are already underwater by double digits just because they voted for the thing to move forward in the first place, let alone the impeachment vote. So they're already probably going to lose just for the measures they've taken so far. So yes, only 14 more to go. If Pelosi loses 14 more Democrats, it's over. And that would mean it would be over for her. She would be forced, if you are in her position, you're pushing this impeachment, and in the process of pushing your impeachment, you lose your own members to the point where you cannot pass. You cannot pass it. That is about as bad as it can get if you're in the leadership, in the top leadership position in something like this. This would take Pelosi out. If they have this impeachment vote and they lose these 4 Democrats plus 14 more, they lose those 18. Now Justin Amash will vote for it, so they can probably give him one more, 19. They could lose 19, but if they lose more than 19, the impeachment doesn't go, and that would be a epic fail of biblical proportions, and Madam Botox would be forced to resign, not just from Speaker, but from Congress. And it would be, I don't even know if there's a word to describe how bad that would be for the demo commies. And you know what? I'd say it's about a 50-50 shot right now. That's how bad it is. Want some good news? Judicial Watch has just won a decision in court that will force the FBI to release records about the meeting between Michael Sussman and James Baker. Sussman gave Baker a stack of material and a disk that contained dirt on Trump. Actually, there were 2 times that we know of for a fact, they're both in my timeline, where Sussman went to general counsel. Keep in mind, Michael Sussman was the primary attorney representing the rotten Reverend Clinton, Hillary for America, and he worked for the law firm that she hired, and he was the primary lawyer representing the rotten Reverend Clinton's campaign for Perkins Coie. And we know that he visited James Baker, the general counsel, the top FBI lawyer, and Comey's, the FBI director's general counsel, highest level lawyer in the FBI, James Baker. Sussman visited him personally on 2 occasions. It's in my timeline. And we know that at least on one of those occasions, he had quite a bit of documents, a stack of documents and materials, including a disc. Now, we know that one of the things that on one of those 2 meetings, we know that one of the things he brought to Baker was the allegation about the Trump Tower server communicating with the Alpha Bank server. That, of course, was debunked very quickly. And, of course, Sussman used to be in the DOJ, so that's how he knew Baker. So he had a personal friendship with Baker and a relationship with Baker. So that's why he had that kind of access. But he was representing the rotten Reverend Clinton. So this means the rotten Reverend Clinton's attorney for the law firm that she hired to be her middleman was directly pumping information into the FBI. She had other people pumping it through the State Department, other people pumping it through the media. She was using all these various sources. The rotten Reverend Clinton knows all about this. She knows every bit of it. And that's a problem, not just for Mr. Sussman and Mr. Baker, but for the rotten Reverend Clinton. Eventually, we will get there. Believe me. The last 2 people who will be targeted by Durham will likely be Obama and the rotten Reverend. They are the top of the pyramid, you might say. So very well done, Judicial Watch. And yes, that's very damning information. Very damning information, I can assure you. Because that information, I think we're going to find out, was information that was coming from Cody Shearer and Sidney Blumenthal, the rotten Reverend's henchmen. Pretty soon, Mr. Durham's going to realize that a lot of the roads lead back to the rotten Reverend, who I believe planned, directed, organized, and controlled the operation. I believe she was a mastermind and continues to be behind the effort to destroy Trump. First to defeat him, which failed, then to get him impeached through the Mueller investigation, which failed, now through the Ukrainian investigation, which will also fail. It's all a fail. The rotten Reverend Clinton does nothing but fail and lose. That's why she's so miserable and so hateful. But it's going to catch up to her. Just watch and see. The Gateway Pundit featured an article today, or in your case yesterday at the time that you're watching this video, by Lawrence Sellin, Sellin. And as a result of this new article, it has now been discovered that on December the 9th of 2015, very important dates, listen to these carefully, December the 9th of 2015, Sharamella, the fake whistleblower, held a meeting in the District of Criminals with the director of the Ukrainian Anti-Corruption Action Center. Remember, this is an oxymoron in a sense. The Anti-Corruption Center that was set up was actually just the opposite. It is the Corruption Center that was set up to cover up the crimes of the Obama administration in Ukraine and the influence of George Soros. And in fact, 59% of this Anti-Corruption Center was funded by the Obama administration, and the rest by George Soros to cover up their crimes. Also at that meeting, commandeered by Sharamella, was DOJ attorney Catherine Newcomb. Now, this meeting occurred just at the time when Manafort was suggesting to Roger Stone, that he could be of help to the Trump campaign. Now, Manafort did end up joining the Trump campaign in early March of 2016. So it seems like now that we have this information, looking back on it, I think it's a pretty fair guess to say that because they were acting, Sharamella and his peeps, Obama administration people, corrupt Ukrainian people, were acting on this information, taking these actions at the time that they must have been spying on, they must have been listening to, surveilling Stone and or Manafort. And must have known that Manafort was going to be looking into maybe joining the Trump campaign. And so that would have been what would have motivated them to have these meetings and start this process. So they would have had to have known that Manafort was involved at this point. And the only way, and of course it wasn't really a public thing, this was just conversations between Manafort and Stone. So based on this logical, putting two and two together here, logic tells you that it was likely that at the time Manafort and or Stone would have been under surveillance, and that's how they learned about it, and that's what would prompt the meeting by Sharamella, the fake whistleblower. Then, on January the 19th, 2016, Sharamella chaired another meeting which included officials from the FBI, the DOJ, and the State Department. And the meeting had two specific objectives. Number one, to coerce the Ukrainians to drop the probe into Burisma and Hunter Biden, and to allow the FBI to take over the investigation, where they would, of course, do what they did with the Rotten Reverend and cover it up, put it to bed. The second objective was to reopen a closed 2014 FBI investigation of Paul Manafort. The second meeting included players from the National Security Council, the Department of Justice, and about seven or eight high-level Ukrainian officials. Then, 2 weeks after that, the fake whistleblower Sharamella holds another meeting, and this one includes Treasury officials and the FBI who specialize in money laundering. The target was Manafort. Clearly, they were spying on Manafort much earlier than we know. Well, it looks like the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff for brains, has given an interview with the New Yorker magazine, and he says that Trump doesn't give a shit about what's good for the country. Well, he's doing great things for the country, and Adam Schiff is trying to tear it apart. This guy is completely psychotic, delusional, and I believe he's involved in some serious criminal shit. And I do hope to see him perp-walked before 2020 rolls around. Just need to investigate him. That's all you got to do. Well, it looks like Quid Pro Quo Joe told Axios in an interview that Ocasio-Cortez represents the wrong direction of the Demo-Commie Party. This interview is going to air on HBO on Sunday. Now, the four horse-faced women of the apocalypse are not going to be very happy about that. Now, do you remember about a month and a half, 2 months ago, when Quid Pro Quo Joe was praising Ocasio-Cortez for how smart and how brilliant and how great she was, trying to get her endorsement. But once she went over and gave her endorsement to Commie Bernie, now all of a sudden he doesn't think she's so great. Well, I'll tell you what, Quid Pro Quo Joe, you have just pissed off the squad, the four horse-faced women of the apocalypse. And I can guarantee you that you're going to feel the sting from that, because now you are actually going to have their peeps showing up at your gigs screwing with you. Congratulations on another huge mistake. You are an idiot, Mr. Biden. Get out, as I've told you many times before. Get out. Well, it looks like Madame Pelosi did a town hall on CNN with Jake Crapper right after, yesterday, day before yesterday, when the day of the announcement, later that evening, she goes and does this town hall on impeachment. She gets halfway through, and not only does she tell Crapper when he asked her if she would be, at this point, going on record that she is going to vote to support the impeachment, she wouldn't confirm that she would go along with the impeachment. Here she is holding a press conference earlier in the day, telling us why we have to have the impeachment. Then she's at a town hall with Crapper, and when asked if she's going to actually vote and support 100% behind the impeachment, she's not sure. Ha 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 ha! She's nuts. Not only that, she's about halfway through the town hall on impeachment, and she tells Crapper at some point, she goes, how about, she says, let's not have any more questions on impeachment. She's at a town hall on impeachment, and halfway through she wants to stop having questions on impeachment. Why? Because it wasn't going very well. She also said that the most important thing that they have to do is deny Trump a second term. That's right, the truth comes out. That's what it's all about. And I don't know if you saw any clips from this or even at her speech, but I'm noticing something here in the last few weeks about Madame Botox. She has now had so many facelifts. The last one, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. She's had her face stretched so much now that she can no longer open her mouth more than this much. Right here. And this is causing her to get like a sound when she talks. So that's why you're hearing this, all that sound when she tries to talk. She can't properly pronounce words. She's getting this sort of crazy sound as she tries to pronounce certain syllables, certain vowels and things. And it's looking really bad. But I believe at this point they've stretched the skin on her face so tight over her jaw that she literally cannot open her mouth more than this much. Watch her. The next time you see her speaking, you'll notice she can barely open her mouth. So she's trying to talk, but she can only open her mouth a little bit. And it's causing her a lot of issues because she's literally had her face stretched so tight. I'm waiting for her entire face just to rip completely off her skull right mid-speech or something and expose the entire front of her cranium. So let's just keep watching Madame Botox to see if, in fact, that may happen because that face is stretched so tight that it's really becoming a problem now for Madame Botox. We'll keep watching to see how that works out. But, I mean, there's only so far that you can stretch that skin across your face. And God knows how many of those things that she's had. In addition to that, I think that she's had so much Botox that I actually think at some point it's actually penetrating her brain. I think her brain has now got sufficient levels of Botox in it that it's probably why it's not functioning properly. In addition to all the other problems that she has. 14 more Democrats and say goodbye to Madame Botox. If her impeachment efforts fail, she will be gone. Trump is now at 51% approval, which is 6 points higher than Obama at this time in his presidency. That's why the Democrats are going nuts. And in case you haven't noticed, something I haven't even talked about in the last couple of weeks, but I have noticed in the last couple of weeks, many of you probably have too, that you're starting to see some real serious infighting within the Democratic Party. It's been going on, but it's going to get progressively worse and worse and worse because as they narrow down the field of candidates, it's going to create more infighting as people see their candidate who they supported fall out and they don't see anyone else they can get behind. They have no choice to be there'll be nobody for them to be supporting of, so they'll have no choice but to become attacking of those they don't support. So you're going to see this. We saw the event that went down the other day at the Booty Boy, the Buddy Judge event where the Black Lives Matter guy took over the event. We're seeing this on the campaign trail with Quid Pro Quo Joe. He's getting, triggered. We saw Nancy Botox Pelosi get triggered as well. These people are totally wound up. They're on edge. They're turning on each other. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And I'm looking at the RCP this morning, and if you look at the numbers, I think we're starting to get to the point now where it's so late in the game that we're starting to see exactly what I think the rotten Reverend Clinton is looking at, which is that you are not going to have a clear winner. The demo commies are likely going to enter into the convention with no clear front runner, which means they'll have a brokered convention. And in a brokered convention, anybody's name can be brought forward. And I think that's what the Right Reverend Clinton is working on. And my guess is that she has got operatives planted in all these campaigns to make sure that no one can get in that 40% range. No one's getting near it. Biden still continues to be the only one that's really cracked the 25% mark. Warren got there for a day or two, but fell back, and now she's back in the mid-teens. Sanders, his ceiling is probably somewhere around 21. He's not going to get there, and there is nobody else. It is going to be quid pro quo Joe probably being the front runner going into the convention, just because the rest of the field is so bad, but not near enough to give him the votes he needs to clinch the nomination. He's probably going to lose Iowa and lose badly. I don't know if he'll finish the top three. He might be able to finish in the top three in New Hampshire, but we'll have to wait and see. In the South, he'll probably do a little bit better, but the Democrats have jimmied up their primaries, and now California, which is going to be a critical state, now it's going to come into play because they're going to vote early, and it'll be interesting to see where California goes. Kamala legs in the air Harris is gone, and she's from California. I don't know where that support's going to go in California, but we know how left-wing California is. They're probably going to go as hard left as they can go, and that would be most likely Commie Bernie. So Commie Bernie could end up doing very well in California, and that could put him and quid pro quo Joe as the two top people after the California primary. And, of course, the Right Reverend Clinton is not going to let Bernie eclipse Biden. They'll do whatever they have to do to make sure that does not happen. We know what they did last time to Bernie in California. They announced that the Right Reverend had won the night before the vote. I'm on Eastern Standard Time. About 10:30 p.m. the night before the vote in California for the Democratic primary in 2016, they were announcing that the Right Reverend Clinton was going to win California. 20 hours before the polls even opened in California, they were announcing the Right Reverend Clinton was going to win. So that's how the fix was in California. So we'll have to wait and see, but it looks like to me brokered convention, and that is how the Right Reverend Clinton would be able to ascend to the top tier position. But I don't think it's a lock. I think that's her strategy. But there's a lot of pushback against her as well. But if you're looking at the Right Reverend Clinton, Commie Bernie, and quid pro quo Joe, where do you go with that? I mean, that's like, whew, that's bad, and really, really bad. Take your pick. They're all losers. Lindsey Graham says he's not going to subpoena Schiff's phone records. Well, you may not want to subpoena Schiff's phone records, Lindsey, but my guess is he's going to subpoena yours. We have Bloomberg doing an interview, and they're asking him about the Democratic field, and Bloomberg says Trump will eat him up. And he's absolutely right. Whether it's Commie Bernie, quid pro quo Joe, the Right Reverend, Pocahontas, take your pick, he will eat them up, eat them alive. Won't even be close. But you know what, Mr. Bloomberg? He'll eat you alive too. The Daily Caller reporting today that the IG report will blow up the dossier is total BS. Yeah, why blow up the dossier is total BS in the two videos I did after BuzzFeed published it. I did two videos. I read through the entire dossier, word for word, line for line, and broke it down. I determined it was bullshit back then. MSNBC, Morning Joe, and Crazy Mika are freaking out this morning in their segment when they were told by a guest that the impeachment is backfiring because Trump is going up in the polls and his fundraising is off the charts. Winning! Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.